Middlesbrough not messing around with another signing set to be through the door in time for the start of the new season. That is because Middlesbrough are closing in on a deal to sign Radek Vitek from Manchester United. Now, the goalkeeper is someone that Middlesbrough have been linked with for a little while now, a good couple of weeks since it emerged that Middlesbrough would be looking for a new number one goalkeeper this summer. And it seems like a deal has now been struck, with Middlesbrough agreeing a deal worth an initial £7 million with Manchester United for the goalkeeper. Now, that fee could rise to around about £14 million, including add-ons, with Manchester United including a sell-on clause as part of that deal, and also a buyback agreement as part of that, should he prove to be a big success with Middlesbrough. Now, for Middlesbrough, this is a big win. This is a big deal that Middlesbrough are able to get this one done. Vitek was on loan with Bristol City last season, was excellent, one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship. Of course, quite a mediocre Bristol City team, but a really good goalkeeper. So Middlesbrough hoping that Vitek can really raise the ceiling when he does arrive at Middlesbrough. And this deal could be done in time for Friday night's clash with Wrexham. Now, it remains to be seen, of course, whether he will be whether he'll be past fit, whether the deal will be completed, all of those sorts of things in time for Wrexham. But of course, with the league season not getting underway for another week after that, of course, we play Lincoln on Saturday, the 15th of August. It means that there is a little bit of time for him to adapt to life at Middlesbrough. Of course, we still have Sol Brynn in the building as well, so it may well be that Brynn gets the nod for the match against Wrexham. And I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic going into this season. Now, of course, Sol Brynn was Middlesbrough's number one goalkeeper last season. We did have Seny Dieng in the building, but he's been way down the pecking order under Kim Hellberg, and it seems almost certain that he'll move on if Middlesbrough can find a potential suitor for him. Now, Sol Brynn was almost unopposed last season for that number one jersey, and I think his performances came in for probably quite an unfair level of scrutiny potentially over the course of the season. Now, don't get me wrong, his performances at times were a little bit shaky. He made a number of high-profile mistakes, most notably in the playoff final against Hull City. Now, of course, that is the nature of football in the Championship. When you are a side who are challenging for promotion, a side who have big ambitions of getting into the Premier League, there are incredibly high standards that you do need to meet. And so ultimately, when he has made these mistakes, there was a few of them over the course of the season, some of them outright mistakes, some of them blunders, some of them just shots where you're thinking he should have done better with that. He should have been able to get down quicker to keep that out the back of the net. And that led to quite a substantial amount of criticism for Sol Brynn. Now, I'm someone who has been critical of him in the past. I am someone who believes and believed over the last couple of months that Middlesbrough needed a new goalkeeper if we were to take that next step. And it does seem like Radek Vitek is going to be that player. He's going to be someone who's coming in to basically be number one goalkeeper. We're not signing someone from Manchester United for a deal worth £7 million for him to come and play backup to Sol Brynn. He's coming in to be the number one goalkeeper. And for me, that's really exciting. It means that we are taking that ruthless approach that I believe that we need to do in order to take that next step, in order to seriously challenge for promotion this season. I think last season we were firmly in that mix for automatic promotion, and we ended up in the playoffs and that sort of thing. But I think it was a bit of a weird Championship last season. I think a lot of the big hitters didn't really show up. It meant that the door was wide open for clubs like Middlesbrough to enjoy a big season, and I think that just kind of ties into the fact that it was such a huge opportunity that Middlesbrough missed out on by not beating Hull City at Wembley to secure promotion to the Premier League. But I think this season's going to be different. I think the standards are going to be a lot higher, and so for Middlesbrough, it's so important that we are improving on those players. And I think ultimately one of the main sort of feelings around a goalkeeper is that you don't want to be having to think about the goalkeeper. You almost want to forget that they're even there, that you're even having to consider what their performances are like. That is the sign of a good goalkeeper, where you're not having to pay any attention to their performance because you know that what they're doing is good. You know that what they're doing is safe. You know that what they're doing is keeping the ball out of the back of the net. They're saving the shots that they should be. Their distribution is good. You're not having to worry about these nervy sort of moments. And I think that was the problem last season, that Sol Brynn was becoming too much of a talking point. I think fans were a little bit nervous with him between the sticks. There was a feeling that he wasn't doing what he was meant to be doing in the goal by keeping these shots out. I think a lot of people were looking on various statistics websites and seeing that he was massively underperforming that statistically in terms of shot save percentages and these sorts of things. He was one of the worst goalkeepers in the other championship, and of course that's the nature of it. These statistics are there for everyone to see, and so you can see directly how those goalkeepers stack up against each other. But I do think some of the criticism that Sol Brynn came in for was a little bit unfair. Some of it got a little bit personal. A few people just really being quite overcritical at times, which I thought was quite unfair, because ultimately he is still a young lad. He is a Middlesbrough lad, someone who is a good goalkeeper, someone who will have a really good career ahead of him, whether that's with Middlesbrough, whether that's elsewhere. It'll be interesting to see what happens this season, to see whether he is someone who sticks around and challenges for that number 1 jersey, or with the arrival of Radek Vitek, will that lead to Sol Brynn potentially being allowed to leave the club to pursue first team football elsewhere? I'm not too sure. That's not based on any reports, but could be something that happens as a side effect of this deal. But I think certainly it's probably a good thing for everyone around the club, because, as I said, I think the goalkeeping department, it's had too much airtime over the last few months. We don't want to be talking about it. We don't want to be really kind of over-analysing the goalkeeper's performance. We want someone in goal who's going to be a really safe pair of hands, someone who's going to really help us. And ultimately, you want a goalkeeper who's going to be saving you points and winning you points over the course of the campaign. And I'm just not sure that Sol Brynn was the player to do that. So this is going to be a really exciting deal. It seems like it's going to be very close to getting done, hopefully done in time for the weekend. As I said, not yet sure whether he'll be deemed ready to play against Wrexham on Friday night, both in terms of registration, but also in terms of the when the deal gets done and how much time he's had to train under Kim Hellberg and that sort of thing. And like I said, with Sol Brynn in the building, it may well be that Brynn's given the other nod to at least start the game against Wrexham before Kim Hellberg makes a bigger decision going into the league opener against Lincoln City next week. But yeah, another massive week for Middlesbrough in the transfer market. Of course, we already signed Max Arston on Tuesday. It was announced, just losing track of my days. It was on Tuesday that deal was announced, and of course that one's been a good year or so in the making. A really strong addition, and it does mean that Middlesbrough's incomings are really starting to take shape quite nicely. The squad really is a good blend to it now. There's some really good high quality players who've come into the squad. Of course, there's talk of another central defender coming in as well. It was Ashley Phillips from Tottenham. Looks like he might be potentially coming in. That one seems to be gathering pace, although it's not confirmed or anything just yet. But yeah, Middlesbrough squad really starting to take shape, and it does mean that there could be some outgoings happening very, very soon, most notably with 2 forward players who are, according to reports, set to head for the exit door. And that is because the Northern Echo are reporting that Delano Bergzorg and Cali Sen are both on the verge of leaving Middlesbrough. Delano Bergzorg, a £2 million deal has been agreed with Preston North End to sign Delano Bergzorg, with a medical taking place today on Wednesday, and Cali Sen set to return to Switzerland to join Young Boys in a deal worth £1 million. Now, I think for Cali Sen, I think this seemed pretty inevitable, really. I mean, he just hasn't really featured under Kim Hellberg, just clearly not fancied by him. Even in pre-season, we just haven't really seen a lot of him. And I think with the attacking players that we have brought in, and the fact that there could be more coming into the squad, I think the writing was always on the wall for Cali Sen this summer. Probably the same for Delano Bergzorg. I think once that decision was made in January to allow him to leave to go to Bristol City, I think it was quite clear that he probably wasn't going to be a Middlesbrough player in the long run. He has featured in pre-season, didn't really light things up with Bristol City, and so it did feel like this was probably going to happen. I think Delano Bergzorg, he seems like a popular player within the squad. I think the other players seem to like him. I think Kim Hellberg probably likes him as well as a person. I think he seems like quite a character, and he just seemed quite a popular figure. But ultimately, it's all about whether he's going to be playing regular first team football and whether he's going to have a role to play under Kim Hellberg. And as I said, I think with those attacking players coming into the squad, and potentially more players coming in as well, he is someone who has been deemed surplus to requirements and will move on. So that, of course, means that with him moving on and with Cali Sen moving on, that'll be $3 million recouped in transfer fees this summer. A couple of these attacking players on the way out, and it does feel like there might be a few more heading to the exit door. We've done really, really well with incomings, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with outgoings from this point on, because I imagine that there could be a few heading for the exit door. Of course, Mika Hamilton is allowed to head out on trial with other clubs in terms of pursuing a permanent move away. Sanjay Hansen is available for a move as well. There's a bit of speculation over David Strelec. In defence, you're looking at people like Finn Monroe, who could be heading out on loan. I think it was reported that he's suffered a bit of an injury, but I think it's still expected that he'll leave before the end of the summer transfer window. A couple of other options in there which are going to be interesting. I think Alex Bangura, a question mark over him. Neto Borges, I thought that potentially he would move on, given that he went out on loan to Bristol City in January, but he's featured quite heavily in Middlesbrough's pre-season, so it'll be interesting to see whether he has a role to play in the squad. Of course, he can cover it both central defence and at left back as well, so he might be given another opportunity to impress. And as I said, there could be a few other players potentially heading for the exit door as well this summer. So really, really starting to heat up. These incomings are really, really encouraging. I think for me, this has been an absolutely brilliant window so far. Of course, it's not over yet. We still don't know exactly how we're going to look come the end of August. But I think in terms of the incomings that have happened, things are looking really, really positive. And considering that we lost Hayden Hackney and Dale Fry really early on in the summer transfer window, two massive losses. I think fans were really quite anxious at that point about what this Middlesbrough team were going to look like and how this team was going to look moving forward. But I think the players that we've managed to bring in, really high quality players. I think for Middlesbrough in the Championship, it's been dream transfer window stuff, and I think there could be a few more deals on the way as well, but potentially a few needing to head to the exit door before that happens. But Radek Vitek, he's going to be the next player coming into the club. That one hopefully will be done in time for the weekend, and I want to know what you think of that deal to bring him in. Is he a good enough goalkeeper? Is he someone who's going to beat Sol Brynn to that number one spot in Kim Hellberg's side? Drop into the comments below. Let me know what you think of the signing of Radek Vitek, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like and please do hit subscribe as well, and I will catch up with you next time.